Hello, hello. Hey, guys, and welcome to another episode of Inglês no Rádio. Today on the show, we have a special guest, Ray. And Ray, I'm not saying your last name because I always mess it up. So I think a lot of our listeners probably already know, but Alexia and I appeared on your podcast, The Anomalous Educator, and it was a lot of fun. Alexia was very nervous. But we just thought that Ray was such a nice and interesting guy that it would be awesome to have you on the show. So, Ray, just to start out, can you tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do, where you're from, that kind of stuff?
Yeah, the where I'm from and what I do, they're both kind of loaded questions, I would say. So let me start with the less loaded one, I guess. Let's start with where I'm from. So I was born in the Philippines. I grew up in Istanbul, Turkey. I am technically American. That's what it says on my passport. But I've lived in Mexico and Turkey for more time than I have in the United States. My dad's American, but he grew up in Africa. And my grandfather's American, and he grew up in China. I have cousins who are Nigerian, and others live in India. So that's where I'm from. If I don't know if that makes it clearer or less clear. I have a U.S. passport. That's an easy answer. And I sound pretty American when I talk.
Yeah.
And then let's see. Oh, and yeah, my son's like dual Mexican.
That's a lot.
Exactly. And my son is dual Mexican American citizen, and we're seeing if we can get him as Filipino as well, which technically should be allowed. So he'll be a little Jason Bourne when we show up to the airport. We'll kind of open up his bag, and all these different passports and currencies will be sitting in there. I think that'd be kind of a funny thing for us to do. So that's that side of things. What I do, I work at home in my pajamas. I think is the easiest answer for that. Otherwise, more an answer I give in the intros for like talks is I bootstrap seven-figure online businesses.
Yeah. So you work online. We will get into that. Everything is quite complicated with your background. One thing about your background I would like to point out. Currently, you are living in Mexico, right?
Correct.
Cool. So, Ray, just out of curiosity, why Mexico? Because I don't know about how Brazilians think about Mexico, but in the U.S., with our current political climate, Mexico is kind of seen as this scary place that you don't want to go. And it seems like you really like it.
I do really like it here. And I've been here I've been here now for 14 years, so I think it was slightly before our current political climate. But the reason I actually came to Mexico, I didn't choose to come to Mexico. Okay, that sounds bad. It's like somebody forced me to do it. I joined the U.S. Peace Corps. And at the time when I was in the Peace Corps, you couldn't choose where you went. They sent you where you were needed. So when you join the Peace Corps, for those who aren't familiar with it, it's a volunteer organization where they send Americans with college educations overseas for 2 years to help in communities and in cities in different areas, whether it could be health, it can be education. In my case, since I'm an engineer, I was in computer engineering. They sent me over to help with computer engineering. For a long time, I thought I was going to Africa or maybe Southeast Asia, because my father was a Peace Corps volunteer in Southeast Asia. That's how we met my mom in the Philippines. And then about a month before, they said, no, you're going to Mexico. So, okay. So I came down to Mexico. I was actually stationed near the Guatemala border. So it was actually a pretty cool Peace Corps experience, because anybody who's come to Mexico knows, despite what you see on the news, it is not a third world country by any stretch of the imagination. So, I mean, I go to the gym, there are more BMWs parked in front of my gym in the morning. It's not even like a fancy gym than I see in most places outside of maybe San Francisco. People are driving Teslas now around the city, you know, and that it's a very especially the city I live in is a very wealthy city. So I did 2 years here. They needed help with some computer technology, a little behind in like computer infrastructure, 10 years behind the United States. So I did that. I met my wife, and that's what led me into entrepreneurship. Before that, I was just working as a software developer.
Yeah. Awesome. So that was pretty much the next thing I want to talk about. I totally forgot that you were in the Peace Corps. That is very cool.
Yeah.
Would you recommend Peace Corps for, I don't know, perhaps your son?
Oh, definitely. It's a joke in our family that you have fun till you're in your late 20s, you join the Peace Corps and you get married. Because that's what my dad did. A lot of people do Peace Corps right after college, so it's usually 21, 22. I did it a little bit later. I was 26, 27 when I joined. My dad was the same. He had done his master's. He had his undergrad, he did his master's at Harvard, and then he joined the Peace Corps. So he was about 25, 26 when he joined the Peace Corps. And then we always meet our wives who are always from wherever the country's there. So I'm hoping he gets in the Peace Corps in Africa, because I think that's the one part of the world we don't have in my family very strongly yet. I have cousins who are Nigerian, but that's from my mom's side of stuff as well. So if we could do that, then his kids would be Asian. My dad's Boston Irish, Caucasian, Latino, and African, all mixed into one. So, I mean, that'd be kind of a cool little mix.
Quite literally be a global citizen.
Yeah, United Colors of Benetton. He would be the ad. You don't need to have like all the other kids. You just put him there, and he would represent all of them. So that'd be kind of cool.
That's beautiful. Okay, so another thing that both of us have in common is we both work and got into business with our significant others. Mm-hmm. So you said you started your first business and got into entrepreneurship with your wife in Mexico. Can you tell us a little bit about how that started and what that business is?
Sure. Business was, I guess, because I sold it and then the new owners ran it into the ground in a year and a half. So the first business we launched after the Peace Corps, it was kind of a convergence of a lot of things. I'd always kind of wanted to run my own business, but like I didn't have really a business skill. I mean, I knew engineering. I could make websites. I didn't know marketing at the time, but that's my specialty now. Mm-hmm. But, computer programmers in and of themselves aren't businesses unless they're consultants, right? I didn't even have the concept of writing my own software and selling it or anything like that. Luckily, my wife was a Spanish teacher. She was one of the Peace Corps staff that was Spanish teaching. They hired to teach Spanish to us. And luckily, she had a skill that was marketable, essentially teach Spanish to foreigners. So we decided to combine our skill sets. I made the website. I did the business end. I had experience as a team lead and stuff back in the United States. So I had team management experience and basic accounting experience. So we went in there and we just decided to launch our first business. It was at a point in our lives where we could. We're both, blessed to have wonderful families that we come from. So worst case scenario, it wouldn't work. We'd go and live with one of our families for, a year as we kind of got stuff together. Not ideal, but, we'd live with it. Exactly. You know how it is. She's a bilingual teacher. I'm a software engineer. We would get jobs relatively quickly, and then we'd be able to move out and continue with our lives, right? But at that point, we didn't have a kid, so we could do it. We could take that risk and see what happened. And it was one of the best decisions of our lives. The difficulty was we literally started the business and got married in the same month. Not something I would recommend, because there's only two possible outcomes to that as far as I can tell, and I'd love to hear your opinion, Foster, on it as well. It's either you have a really strong relationship or you're divorced. There is no middle ground that comes out of that at all, because you either figure it out or you don't figure it out and the relationship ends.
Yeah, I think entrepreneurship in and of itself can be a little bit risky and very intense. And then adding your most significant relationship on top of the mix. Yeah, it's a lot. It's kind of make or break.
I was about to say, my wife and I, we have a wonderful relationship. I love her very much. She's the most important person in the world to me. But if somebody asked me, should I do that? I'd say no. I would say probably not. Because I think probably we're the lucky ones. I have no statistics to back this up, but I'd be surprised if like 20% of the cases, it probably comes out strong relationship. Maybe 80% they get divorced. I mean, I have no idea, but I kind of had that feeling with other people I've met who've gone through it, and their relationship did not survive.
Yeah, I think it takes not only a very special kind of relationship, but also a lot of discipline, patience.
That's it.
I probably would not recommend it. And I think Alexia would agree.
Same thing. Yeah, we've survived it, but it's like somebody who survives a war. You're like, yeah, I survived it, but I wouldn't recommend you go and doing that. I mean, just because I survived doesn't mean you should try the same thing. So yeah, that would be my advice. Start a business. That's great, but not necessarily with your significant other.
Yeah. So apart from doing it with your wife, something that a lot of our listeners ask about, and just a lot of Brazilians are moving out of Brazil, or they're working in IT. They have a lot of marketable skills, and a lot are just starting to get interested in this online entrepreneurship thing. Would you recommend that by itself without 100%. A partner?
100%. You can have a partner, just, don't marry them. But I would 100% recommend the online world. I think it's where the world is going. I'll put a caveat in there. It's not for everybody. If you want a stable income every 15 days, every week, whatever it is you want, and you want to know how much you're going to make, and there's pretty much a guarantee as long as you do at least a mediocre job, you're going to get that salary, online entrepreneurship or entrepreneurship in general is not for you. There are ups and downs and stresses. I've lost businesses overnight, wake up in the morning and suddenly my income's gone. It's very, very stressful. It also kind of makes you unemployable after a while because, you become good at a lot of things, but not specialized at anything. And sometimes that's what companies are looking for, right? They're looking for that cog in the wheel that fits into this specific slot and it does this job and does it well. And an entrepreneur, after a few years, is not that cog.
Yeah. I think I was unemployable beforehand and now much more so nowadays.
Exactly. I wouldn't even know what job to apply for. I mean, it would just be, I would fall back on computer programming, I guess, because it's the most lucrative and I know there's a huge demand. But the beauty of running your businesses online is twofold. If you can get past that stress factor, I'm not going to say you're going to be rich. Most people do not make $1 million businesses when they run online. If you're lucky, you'll make a 6-figure business. Most people don't even get that far. But if you can make a 6-figure business. If you're really lucky, you'll make a 7-figure business. Most of us will never make 8, 9, 10-figure businesses at all. I mean, those are the unicorns you see in Silicon Valley. The question is, do you want an 8-figure business? And I think if most people are honest, that's not what they want. If I told you, for people in Brazil, I could, teach you, and in the Anomalous Educator, I teach teachers how to do this kind of thing. And I'm creating courses for online marketing right now to teach people how to do that aspect of it as well. And I can teach you, it's pretty easy to start an online business that makes $1,000 a month within a year or two.
I think most people think that's insane.
Exactly. But I mean, and now if you're in the US and you're listening to this and you're like, well, I'm not going to work 2 years to make $1,000 a month. If you're in Brazil and listening to this, if you're in the country I was born in, the Philippines, listening to this, and I can tell you, you can make $1,000 a month in 1 to 2 years doing this. That's life-changing. I mean, that's literally taking people out of poverty, making a middle upper class. In the Philippines, upper class. Brazil, I think that would be a solid. I mean, most engineers in Brazil, I believe, don't quite make that much.
Depends on the city.
Depends on the city, but I mean, that's a good salary. And keep in mind, you're doing this at home. You're not dealing with the traffic in Rio or Sao Paulo. You're not spending an hour to get to work, an hour to get back. I have, my wife's family in Mexico City tells us they spend an hour and a half each way to get to work every month. And I know they make less than $1,000. And they're college educated, professionals that going into offices every day. You don't have to do that anymore. You don't have to waste money on your business suits. Or for the women, those business clothes, the blouses and stuff you have to wear. You don't have to wear high heels if you're a woman all day long in the office and be uncomfortable. You can do this at home. You can spend time with your family. You can work when you want and not work when you want. I'm not going to say you're working less. You're still going to work a lot. But you have this flexibility in hours. If you're a night owl and you want to spend the day with your family, do that. That's fine. Spend it with your family and then start working at 8 o'clock at night and finish working at midnight or something like that. That's the flexibility that doing this online thing can do for you. And it's what given me and my wife all this freedom for all these years. We travel 3 months out of the year. I don't say we go on vacation 3 months out of the year. We travel 3 months out of the year. Like you guys, right? We travel, we get some work done, and then in the afternoon we'll go and see a local historic site, and then we'll come back and maybe get some work done after that. But we can do that in Tokyo. We can do that in Vietnam. We can do that in Paris. Italy. Well, not Italy right now. I probably, with the coronavirus, I probably wouldn't hit up Italy right now. But you get the point. It's
not as easy to throw out just a
exactly
great cities right now. Wow. It's always such a privilege when I talk to other entrepreneurs, just because it can be really hard. It's a roller coaster, like you said, but you sold me on it again. It's nice to get those pep talks every now and then.
I know. I mean, I love this. I mean, I do it for money now because I need to, right? I mean, in the sense that I need to have businesses. We're doing pretty well. Our business is doing pretty well, but I can't just stop today. I'm only 40. I mean, I still have another 20, 30 years that I theoretically should be working. But I love it so much that I would do this for free. I mean, I would coach people on doing it for free. I would help them start businesses for free. This is my computer game. I just think this is fun. It's creative. It's amazing. I hopefully can do this the rest of my life.
It is fun. And if it's not your computer game, the cool thing is you can kind of make it whatever game you want.
That's exactly
it's your choice.
Exactly. Yeah. Whatever works for you. I mean, but keep in mind the stress factor. It is not, if you are looking for stability, entrepreneurship is probably not the route for you.
Absolutely.